So in Kathleen Edwards' new song, Save Your Soul, the producer, Jason Isbell, takes a great solo in the song. And what I love about it is kind of the way he enters into it. So first, anytime you learn a solo, it's good to know the harmony behind it. So it's in G. The whole song is kind of in the key of G. So it starts just with a G, moves to a D, then A minor, and C. And for the chord, that's the chorus. And when Kathleen Edwards comes in and sings with that epic Save Your Soul, so that's kind of her vocal melody. And what I love about that, I feel, is that she's going right to that G, and then she's going right back down to the 7 of G, which is also the 3rd of D. So that's kind of the theory behind it, but it just sounds great. So when Jason takes his solo, I feel like it's almost like he's maybe he's taking a couple solos and he starts off with these great chord tones. He's like right on the chord, and then it's almost like he just says like, fuck it, I'm gonna play a rock and roll solo, and just has this great bend. Now, so let me show you two quick things about that solo. So right before the solo progression, they're playing a D is ringing. And what Jason does is he bends that 3rd of D, which is also the 7th of G, to that G note. But what makes it cool is as he does it, he's hitting the open G string below it to create this dissonance. And it's kind of quick, it's a pickup. And then he just punches a dyad up here on the G, right when the G hits. Let's see if I can get it. That's kind of the entry point to that solo. Makes a little more sense with the chords behind it. And then he plays Kathleen's melody, which is just a nice way to enter into that. So he's got that great pickup. And then this is my favorite part where he just kind of says, fuck it. And just, instead of playing chord tone solos, he's just like, I'm gonna play in the key of G and just fucking hit it. So he kind of throws the note up after that. It's almost like it's like, turns into rock and roll mode. Does that slide up there. And then this is the best bend. He goes. So that bend is really common in that G shape here. But what he's doing is where he's putting it right before that A chord. So you're coming off of a D into that A minor. And what makes that bend great too is it's not a chord tone. You know, he's not playing the 3rd, 5th, or root. He's, you know, while it's on the D, he's playing the 6. And then as it switches to the A, as it switches to the A minor, it becomes the 2nd of A minor. So it just goes to show, like, you don't always need theory and chord tone solos. Sometimes it's just like, you're in the key of G, you know, just play what you feel. And I feel like that's what Jason ends up doing. You know, he comes to, and then he's just like, fuck it. At that part, ended on that note too. He's ended on the 3rd of D, but the chords is hidden over, it's over C when he plays it. So it's like the sharp 4 of C, which is cool, but it's not like he's playing, you know, he's not playing these predictable chord tones. It's almost like the Miles Davis thing of, you know, don't play the butter notes. I don't know if he's doing that intentionally or if he's probably just improvising and using his ear and not thinking. after that, he kind of, he works down, works to these double stops and kind of walks his way back into the chord progression. It's a quick solo. Yeah, so check it out. I'll put a link for the song and tell you where the solo starts around 2 minutes. Kathleen Edwards' album is awesome. It's a good album called Billionaires. What I like about it is not only her vocals and her lyrics and the songs, but I feel like Jason produced it very well. You can almost see his like rock and roll heart shine through to a couple tracks where he's playing distorted guitar tones, little crunchy tones. But I feel like what he does is when you have these singer-songwriters, sometimes people almost give too much space to the vocals and there's kind of nothing interesting behind it. It's just basic chords and a simple groove. Whereas especially with headphones, you can always hear these layers behind it with headphones better. But you can hear all the little ear candy he puts in there with all these different little licks and fills. And the trick there is making it interesting enough for the listener to either consciously or subconsciously enjoy it without taking away from the vocalist. So it's a fine line of if you keep it too busy in the background and it's too forward in the mix, you're going to take away from the vocalist. So as a guitarist, you can just listen to that album and see how to play like tastefully behind lead singers. And if you're just a music fan, just listen to the album. It's a great album. So the two things I kind of learned from that solo or reminded with that solo is one, that awesome lead-in trick where you can take a half step away from an open and get a great dissonance bend there. So you can use that many ways. And then the second thing I was kind of reminded was that you don't always have to hit the chord tones. While that stuff works, it's almost more fun and very useful for certain songs just to do what Jason did and just kind of wing it and play it by ear. Maybe he wrote it out and knew exactly what he was going to, but it definitely feels like he's just playing by feel and using his ear, which comes across more interesting. That's why I had to sit down and be like, what is he doing here? And I don't think he's like, oh, I'm gonna hit the second of A minor and then the sharp 4 of C. I think he's just like, I'm in G major and I'm just gonna play whatever notes I feel like it. I mean, eventually at the end he does work back into something that sounds a little bit more structured just to get back into it. But yeah, you don't always have to be thinking and playing chord tones, and sometimes just figuring out the key and just going for it sounds better.